evening and welcome to another show. My word, doesn't a week fly past, especially in the winter, because it gets dark, especially in this part of the world, around about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And on a day like today, it's been foggy all day. It's really depressing. But anyway, let's lift the depression. First of all, I've got two gags for you this week. Rather topical gags, actually. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mystery Hour, because I didn't upload it this weekend for simple reason. Is we didn't do the show on last Friday. But fear ye not, as I say, there will be future shows uploaded. Colin is a perfectionist and is doing some really interesting research at the moment. But what I may be doing is uploading some previous shows. And because I started off doing programs about the paranormal about 10 years ago. And I've been looking through the files. And if you go on to my website, which is Fockham Hall, Fockham, hallradio.com, you can hear those radio programs that I did all those years ago. And some of them, well, they're rather unique highlights, I believe. But one I'm going to try and find out, which is somewhere in my archive, but it's definitely on my website, which I haven't updated for a long, long time. But I keep saying I'm meaning to, but it's just time, I've got to get round to it. Was one that I did with Michael Roll, and he believed in the scientific evidence for life after death. He didn't only believe in it, he had the scientific evidence. Very, very interesting program it was. And I interviewed him shortly after my dad had passed away. And I personally didn't think I did the best because I was grieving. But people that heard it said, wow, that was interesting. So I'm going to try and upload that. And what we're going to do, we're going to, Colin and I, he's doing all the research and that. We're going to do future programs about Bigfoot, time slips, personal situations with ghosts and things like that. So it should be quite interesting. But that's one program I'm going to upload. That is with Michael Roll. He's still around, and I'll give you a little bit of a background to him. He belongs to the cfpf.org.uk, and in the program he talks about Sir Oliver Lodge, who lived from 1851 to 1940, and he did a lot of I'm just reading a little bit here off the internet. It says this article was censored from large circulation papers. See, there's another thing. Talking about the scientific proof for life after death was illegal before, I think you'll have to listen to the program, in 1990 something. So that's quite interesting. Why was it illegal? And apparently he did looked into this is Sir Oliver Lodge, looked into subatomic physics and the study of the invisible part of the universe. And then we talked about the chemist Sir William Crookes or whatever his name is, and he did repeatable experiments under laboratory conditions. And there was a chap called Alan Cleaver. He did a report in 1982. So it's all jolly interesting stuff. Now, where am I? I've lost myself. So looking forward to that. And also, I did two programs with the late Robert Newman. He was a good friend of Colin and myself, and unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. And he was an expert on Mozart. And we did these programs called The Mozart Myth, which was, well, if you think Mozart was a genius, think again. And putting it crudely, Mozart allegedly, so Colin discovered, he went through all the records, did some painstaking research, and he said that Mozart, this is my interpretation, was really a modern day version of suppose, a made-up group, like a boy band or Spice Girls or something, that wasn't really anything. Most of his music was written by other people, and he could prove it. So, and I'm a great fan of Mozart. I like a lot of his stuff, along with Wagner. So, anyway, let's have a quick look in chat before I start off with the dirty gag. Okay, so where are we? Oh, we got hello, Stewie. I'm looking for my long johns. Are you really? Well, we won't go into that, will we? It's Pat and Pet. Hello. Good evening. They're my friends from the Netherlands. And I learned something there, you see, because being stupid in English, we say, oh, they're from Holland. Well, Holland is a district of the Netherlands. It's a bit like saying the Americans used to say, well, in London, meaning England or Britain, because they thought the whole of Britain was called London. No, it isn't. That's the capital of Britain, as we all know. And it was the same with the Netherlands. And the Netherlands is the Netherlands, and the Holland is a part of it. So I learned something there, didn't I? I was a bit thick, wasn't I? You say, oh, yeah, I know Holland. So, hello, Pat and Pet. Now, let's start off with a dirty joke. See, I've got two tonight. And the last one is near the end of the programme. I'm going to talk about the 3 MPs. But first of all, you see, there was 3 girls, and they decided to buy some designer masks. You know, these, I call them Muppet masks, whatever you want to call them. And, you know, they're young girls, and they were called Julie, Sandra, and Fanny, you see. And they decided to go to one of these, designer places and order these beautiful masks, which have got all ringlets on them and gold and bling and God knows what. Anyway, the day arrived when they should pick up these designer masks, which they paid a lot of money for. But unfortunately, Fanny couldn't actually turn up, you see. So it's only the 2 other girls that went there with their short skirts and stiletto heels, you know. They tottered into this designer studio where they make all these theatreful clothing at vastly inflated prices. And this effeminate bloke came out and said, oh, hello, girls. I've got your designer masks. You see, and he goes behind the scenes. He comes out. Here they are. There's only 2 of them, you see. So one of the girls said, what about our fannies? And he goes, oh, your knickers should be more than enough protection. Anyway, it's a terrible joke, isn't it? Anyway, let's go back into chat again. Oh, we finally had a chance to drop in the live stream again. So great to see you live again. Yeah, hang on. Yeah, I'm live, yes. Because they're actually doing, between you and I, don't tell anybody, I had plans to buy an old van and make it into, taking a leaf out of somebody else's book, a stealth camper van, and spend winters in Portugal. So you would actually see these broadcasts from Portugal, because even though the European winters are so delightful with the grey sky, grey land, everything grey, I mean, today it's so cold and foggy. Oh, it's what I call a 1950s exercise book day, because if you look at books from the 1950s, now I've got a gardening book that's printed in, I think, 1949, so it just about misses it. And all the pictures are black and white, and they all look as if they've been taken on a foggy day. Everyone, you open the book, you know, this is some garden roses. There's fog in the background. I don't know if it was a crappy cameras had in those days, or a crappy film, or just crappy productions. But you get like workshop manuals. Now, I've got a 1952 full prefect workshop manual, which my dad had, which he got with his first car. And I've still got it. It's a collector's piece, I think. And every picture looks as if it's been taken on a foggy day. It's not depressing, you know. It's all sort of black and white. And ugh. Anyway, where was I? I forgot myself. Hang on a minute. We got here. What is it? It's global warming. Global, bloody hell. Talk about global warming. I had permafrost up my backside today. Freezing. I could not get warm. I suffer from cold feet, and I bought these pads that you peel off and you stick on your socks. And I wear 2 pairs of socks plus thermal slippers, and I'm all right generally. And I went out the other day, and instead of sticking these thermal pads between my 2 layers of socks, I stuck it on the outside, so it warmed up the sole of my shoe, but not my feet. Right. Anyway, where was I? Yes, I've just finished a dirty joke, and I got from Pat and Pear. Was it? We can imagine you live streaming from Portugal, nice and warm. Yes, I agree. But Pat, can you imagine this terrible nightmare you see? At night, you're laying in bed in your nice Mercedes camper van, and you hear the rustling of a crappy old van from Great Britain, with the steering wheel on the wrong side, pulling up in the distance. And then dawn breaks, and you open the curtains, you look out, you think, bloody hell, it's that loony English bloke. So you know something I've noticed with a lot of these people in the camper vans, they're buying these drones. Now, I don't know how expensive they are. They're going to go, don't I get some good pictures from them? I think you've got to pay you can't get a £50 Chinese special. I think you've probably got to pay a couple of £100 to get something reasonably good. But they're really fantastic. I mean, they really go high. And technology is really, well, it's gone off the charts. Anyway, just refer to my notes. And there's 2 things. Last week, I said I got a story about Zaflora disinfectant, and then I forgot to mention it. And it's a pretty boring story, really. And I know Pat and Pep, they know about this story, so they can go off to sleep now. But when I was a kid, when I was a toddler, whenever I puked up, which children tend to do a lot, and by the way, my mum was a good cook, she was excellent. Whenever I threw up, my mum always used to clean up afterwards using Zaflora disinfectant. Now, Zaflora is a really good disinfectant. It's cheap and it goes a long way because you dilute it. 1 part Zaflora, 40 parts water. So if you want some cheapo disinfectant, which is not cheap, when I say not cheap, it really lasts. The smell, it's brilliant it is. Use Zaflora, which you can buy in a pound shop in between you and I. Anyway, and I don't get paid by Zaflora for promoting their product. Well, I used to relate vomit to Zaflora because I think in those days you could only get one type of smell, which was bouquet. So whenever I was sick, there's my mum, she used to come along with Zaflora, spray it all around, clean everything up the spot because she was house proud. And then I'd smell the Zaflora and throw up again. Well, my sister had exactly the same effect on her. So she would come in, I was puke up, and I was only about 4 or 5, probably less younger than that. She could take one whiff of the floor and throw up. And another thing she couldn't stand was tinned strawberries. I don't think you can buy them nowadays, but you used to be able to get them. And my aunt and uncle that lived in Kent used to have this strange thing that my sister loved tinned strawberries, and she hated them. and we used to my dad used to drive us down there to visit his sister, which is my aunt and uncle, down in Kent, and it was near Biggin Hill Aerodrome, which is, Battle of Britain, that famous for. And we used to go down there. I mean, my sister is much older than me, and when and they'd say, "Oh, we got your favourite in, especially tinned strawberries." They used to open it up and she used to throw up. And my uncle used to say, "Oh, she's got a very weak stomach, hasn't she?" "Yeah, it's the journey. She gets travel sickness." And they were too polite to say she can't stand tinned strawberries. But anyway, on with the show, as they say. Now, I've talked about Michael Roll, and what we're going to look into also is, with this mystery hour we're going to do, is Zechariah Sitchin and the Anunnaki and all that, because what they say is that apparently you got these texts that were found, and in the 1890s they were deciphered from years and years ago. And what these texts said, but there was an ancient civilization that came from outer space, putting it bluntly and crudely, landed on Earth, made us the slaves, and then buggered off, and they mined gold. So the story goes. And these texts were translated in the 1890s. Now, this chap Sitchin, he opened it up even further in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, and it's very interesting what he has to say. But there's one thing that the warning lights flash, and that is he went to the London School of Economics, and the London School of Economics is a kind of political, shall we say, political place where people, like for instance, JFK went there. People don't realise that. Yes, Kennedy went to the London School of Economics, and it's communist, basically. And what comes out of there is not necessarily the truth. It's more of a psyop, sometimes, not always. So we're going to look into that side of it. What was he doing in the London School of Economics? Was what he said a sort of psyop? Don't know. Weird though, isn't it? So, and the London School of Economics apparently was founded by the Labour Party, basically, and it goes right way back into communism. So interesting. Anyway, we've got a few more. What we got here? Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Welcome to the company. I don't know. I think about an hour after putting up with me. Would you be able to really tolerate the dirty jokes? Who got it? What's this? DJ Vito. Tin strawberries on Rang. Yeah. But I don't know. Can you still get tin strawberries? I haven't seen them for years. I haven't really looked for them. I don't know if you can still get them. But there we go. Here, what's this? Sitchin is a bit of a cult figure in certain circles. Yeah, that is sort of it's quite interesting. All that. I mean, I'm very, very open-minded, and the quickest way of starting an argument is to talk about religion. Really, religion and politics, the two areas that really people get very hot-headed about. But I don't vote, and as I've said about religion, I'm not religious. And excuse me, I've got a tie that's got a mind of its own. It's like a supermarket trolley, this tie. And I say it's a cheap one. It's a silk one, but it keeps slipping. Anyway, I believe with religion. I'm not religious, but I do believe there's an energy. But what that energy is, I don't know. But I respect it, and I think that like attracts likes. If you walk around happy and smiling, you're going to attract happiness and smiles. But if you go around saying the world is a terrible place and everybody's horrible, they will be. That's the way it is. You know, if you're going to go out one day and say, oh, I feel terrible. Oh, I think people are going to be rude to me. They will be rude to you. But if you're going to go out and say, well, I'm going to be happy and jolly, and you know, people are going to be nice to me, they generally will be nice. That's the way life is, really. You know. But the other thing is that about Bill Gates. Now, I'm looking into this because it's not really for the mystery hour. This is more for this sort of thing. And I'm looking into Bill Gates and the what they call it, the Gates and Foundation, and seeing where the tentacles reach, which is very, very interesting. And people say, well, what can we do? Well, I think we can actually change things for the better with thought. And I woke up the other morning thinking, wouldn't it be nice you see the image of Bill Gates in handcuffs and Melinda Gates in handcuffs. And people say from the World Health Organization, which is probably one of the most corrupt organizations on the planet, and the British Medical Association, again, has been financed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and all that. And really, I think what society needs, or world needs, is checks and balances in the future to ensure that no one person can bribe, allegedly, I believe, and corrupt things the way they have. Nobody should ever have that power, because if he is left to do what he wants to do under United Nations Agenda 2030, the communist genocide plan, which you can look up on the internet, it's quite open, they want to cut the world population, etc., etc. There's no future for any of us. So I think that we can do things with positive thought. So why don't we all sort of wake up one morning and just imagine Bill Gates in handcuffs and the rest of his dirty, mucky areas what he's gone into. And the other one is Chris Whitty, or Whiffy as I call him, the what I call the alien grey. Because if you look at him, he looks like an alien grey, doesn't he? He's got a great big forehead, his little chin, and I'm positive that man is a mutant. He's got no feelings whatsoever, no thoughts, But I'm going to read you two things, okay? So this is what I actually wrote on, if I can find it. Always losing things. Oh, it is. This is why I wrote a blog that I wrote earlier this week. So see what you think of it. And it says, sadly, people won't do anything until they are hungry. By that time, it's too late. People are too comfortable. Maybe a few power cuts midwinter due to the new eco-nonsense that is currently closing power stations and causing more pollution, producing ridiculous windmills and electric cars, will cause a stir. Look at the yellow vests in Paris. Then compare that to London. Here in the UK, if it rains, people go home frightened of getting wet. Our ancestors must be turning in their graves. By now, if we had our ancestors' spirit, Bill Gates and his gang of criminals would be swinging from a tree after the heavy mob had seen to them. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation would have been fully investigated, and those responsible for this planned genocide would be facing jail or the rope. The World Health Organization would also have been sorted out. Again, those guilty facing jail or a pressing appointment with the hangman. I hasten to add, I'm totally against capital punishment, but for Bill Gates, I think I would make an exception. Now, since World War I, the stuffing has been knocked out of the cream of successive European generations, in my view, deliberately. Communist ideological subversion has taken its toll. Over the years, the family unit has been deliberately destroyed. Men have been feminized and women made masculine, along with promoting minority groups that don't reproduce. Now our only chance of survival is if there's someone out there that knows how to fire up Europe's ancestral spirit that has been suppressed and has laid dormant for decades. It's our only chance. So be interested to hear your thoughts on that. And I'll just go back into chat and see what we got. I've already read that one. I know. Here we go. And there's DJ B2 had a power cut a couple of weeks ago for a few hours. Now, that must have been fun in midwinter, hasn't it? Oh dear, oh Lord. Between you and I, a couple of years ago, I went to IKEA. I know it's sad. I went to IKEA. Don't tell anybody. I know it's just a weak moment I had. I entered into IKEA, with all this Swedish stuff. Hello, and I bought some tea lamps, and they're 4-hour ones, but they're the cheapest, you see. Can't remember. You've got quite a few. Anyway, I stocked up with them, these tea lamps, the little tiny round things that you light. And I made a flower pot heater. And what I did, I got a tin, a baking tin, put the tea lamp in it, then put one flower pot over the baking tin because there had to be air coming in from underneath, and then put another flower pot over that with a coin at the top of the hole so that the fumes couldn't escape. And it worked. It was a fantastic radiator. It was really warm, but the only downside of it, or three downsides, was one, it's a fire risk. You daren't leave the room and leave it. Number two, it stunk of paraffin. And the third thing, you need a carbon monoxide monitor because it takes the oxygen out of the air. But apart from suffocating and sending the stink, it really does pump out the heat. It really is efficient. And for 4 hours of heat for pennies, it is really good. But again, you've got to have a carbon monoxide monitor because I get a bit woozy with it. Now, what we got here? It says, I had to get out the mag lights. Really? I think the ointment for that, can't you? I think my granny had that, didn't she? Mag lights? What on earth's that? Please explain the mag lights. Mag lights? Perhaps I'm a bit thick. No, beyond me. Anybody know what a maglet is? I thought you got that in apples, didn't you, or something? If you left them too long. Hang on a minute. We got it. It's a type of torch. Oh, thank you. You live and learn. I'll look it up on Google afterwards. Right. Now, next part of the program, I'm going to talk about Star Trek. A program I'm going to really upset people now that I couldn't stand. Because, excuse my language, but the acting on there, everybody looked as if they'd had a cucumber rammed up their arse. So, okay, Captain, right, oh, yes, right, yes. They all sort of walked as if they had a cucumber up their bum. And I can't do it in my fingers. I don't know how he did it, but there was Mr. Spock. And I always thought there was something weird about that program. I mean, why is it all the planets look like Earth and have exactly the same gravity? And why is it that all the aliens, most of them, spoke with a Brooklyn accent? You know, I'm not that keen on science fiction. The only science fiction I like is something like 1984, which had something about it which was fact. And there was a film called Brazil, which was very close to what's happening now. And I don't like the remake of 1984, the film, but if you see the original one made in 1956, I think that's the best. It's in gritty black and white, and it was filmed in London. And in 1956, the war had only been over for 11 years, and there's still a lot of bombed out buildings, and that's where they filmed it, in London. And it was really well done. And the producer is still alive. He's almost 100, but he's still alive. And Donald Pleasance was in it, and he acted it very, very well. Oh, hang on a minute. We got another answer here from Pat and Pet about the, what is it, mag lights. It's a big flashlight. Oh, that's all right if you want to go around flashing it, I suppose. You know. Oh well, learned something there. Didn't know that. So a mag light. Very interesting, yeah. Thank you. Anyway, talking about, where was I? Oh, yes, 1984 and things like that. Now, I always believed that there was something weird about Star Trek. I didn't know quite what it was. And, you know, Captain's log. We need the sewer cleaned out, you know, and all this sort of things. And but I used to like it when they used to go to, was it warp factor 5, warp factor 6, you know? I mean, surely wouldn't, if you was in space, which is supposed to be a vacuum, you wouldn't really feel anything, would you? It all sort of going, you know. Anyway, I've since discovered that Star Trek was a sort of, for want of a better word, a sort of psyop. Let me explain, because I've been sent. Now, make of this, I'm going to read this out. it's a heck of a long write-up, and I'm going to shorten it a little bit. But I'd like to know what. Oh, hang on, I've got Pat. We prefer Pat. Red Dwarf. Yeah, that was quite funny. I only saw a few of those. I used to like the. I don't know if you got this in the Netherlands. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That really was funny. You know. But was it the definition of flight is to throw yourself to the floor and miss, things like that. And was it the BBC use Fact Warper 11? Were they really Eminem? Sorry, Eminem. Sorry, your name's not Eminem, it's Emin. Terribly sorry. And I didn't know that. Yes. But anyway, here is the article that I was sent. Now, make of this what you want. And it's like what we do on the mystery program. We give you the information and you make up your own mind. We're not saying yes, not saying no. But I've never really liked Leonard Nimoy. I've always thought he was a bit odd. As a person, I suppose he was all right. But what he was depicting was a bit. Oh, hang on a minute. There's a joke here. Was this? Is it? Oh well, I'll try. Hang on. Props. I probably missed it. BBC used fact. Well, yes. Sorry. Yes, I get it now. Sorry about that. A bit thick sometimes, I'm getting on a bit. That's what it's all about. Anyway, back to what I was sent. So make of this what you want, okay? Blimey, this is a long piece. It says here, it's an incredible article, and somebody has sent this. It says, the place is great inner standing on the cult show Star Trek, the original series. It seems far-fetched, but at this point, who knows? Check this out, you see. So make what you want. It says, in the heady days immediately following the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Now, for those of you who are not aware of the Tonkin incident, it was basically never happened. And people say, oh, it's a conspiracy. No, if you look up the Encyclopedia Britannica, it actually says that the American government have virtually admitted it didn't happen. And what the Gulf of Tonkin incident was that in 1964, the Americans wanted an excuse to go into Vietnam. So what they did, they set up a fake situation where their innocent boat in the Bay of Tonkin was attacked by these naughty North Vietnamese who fired upon this innocent American ship that was in international waters. And what are these terrible North Vietnamese doing? And then it went all through the newspapers, and Americans were outraged, and we should send our boys into Vietnam. And of course, it worked, and America got involved in the Vietnam War. But again, if you look up the Encyclopedia Britannica, which is very establishment, and most of the places that you would think would say it happened, it didn't happen. They've admitted it didn't happen. It was a false, what I call a false flag, and it's to manipulate people's thought processes. And of course, the American population initially were, oh yeah, we're going to give these commies a kick up the arse, and etc. But there's more in it than that, because now there's evidence that the Vietnam War was financed from Wall Street. Both sides were financed, because on many occasions the Americans were told to hold back when they could go forward, and they had all the firepower they could, because to get the North Vietnamese to let them resupply. And it was just like a game of chess, and it was a sustainable war and a way of actually killing off the poor. It was usually the poor that went to Vietnam, because let's face it, when you look at the American presidents, for example, when you look at Clinton, he was the right age to go to Vietnam. Did he go? No. Then you got George Bush. Did he go? No. Trump, did he go? No. And it goes on, because they had a rich mum and daddy that, got them out. And what we got here? Hang on, we got a few more in chat before I go any further. We got here Davant Bar. Thumbs up for Eric. Oh, isn't that nice? Thank you. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Then we got here. What's this? What's the ratio? This is Emin. What's the ratio? The amount of explanation a joke requires to its funniest, I wonder. Anyway, I apologise to humanity and promise never to do it again. No, have a laugh. I don't mind. Just because I was too thick to see the joke doesn't mean to say nobody else saw it, can they? Anyway, we've got, yes, cannon fodder going into Vietnam. And the Vietnam War, some people say Nixon was probably the best president because he actually got America out of the Vietnam War. They used to call him Tricky Dicky, and they reckon that he was dropped in it with the Watergate thing, because let's face it, most Americans are as bent, they're not Americans, but their presidents are about as bent as a 9-bob note. So, anyway, that's interesting. Anyway, on with my reading bit. And I hasten to add, this wasn't written by me. I'll start going. In the heady days immediately following the Gulf of Tonkin incident, Leonard Nimoy made a profound decision. It was 1964 and America was being torn apart. Ethnic minorities were rioting, the hippie movement had grown into a domestic terrorism threat, and a newly installed President Johnson was on the verge of committing troops to an all-out war in Southeast Asia, Vietnam. In the midst of all that turmoil, Nimoy, who was in StarCraft, made the critical decision to enlist. No, the 33-year-old actor had not joined our military forces. Obviously, this was written by an American, fighting against communism in Vietnam. Instead, he had enlisted in a far older, more momentous battle, one being waged for the very future of the human race. He had decided to join the cast of the new science fiction television series Star Trek, and in doing so, finally accepted his destiny as a foot soldier for the Illuminati agenda. It was the culmination of decades of training and beginning of a 50-year rise up the dark pyramid of global power. Manchurian candidate with Romanov roots. Details of Leonard Nimoy's early childhood are necessarily vague. The media has fed us a predictable timeline to predictable life events, though his genealogy is at best obscure. However, it is clear that Nimoy, March the 26th birth date, does anticipate his future role in New World Order propaganda, for it was on that day in 1484 that William Caxton printed the first translation of Aesop's fables, and also in 1830 when the Book of Mormon was published in Palmyra, New York. Star Trek has long been accused of being a palmpest of those two works. Oh well. However, the most fascinating counterpoint to Nimoy's manufactured backstory is the theory that he may have been the secret love child. Well, I take this with a bit of a pinch of salt, this next bit. Child of Playboy Maurice de Rothschild and Grand Duchess Anastasia Nakhlovina of Russia. Smuggled to America at an early age, he was entrusted to a nondescript family in suburban Boston. Really? Then a safe haven of New Deal liberalism, despite the ravages of the Great Depression. Unfortunately, with those type of, I'm talking myself now, theories, I want the meat on the bone. Where's the evidence? It's like someone once said that Peter Sellers was the love child of Mountbatten. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? He was born, I think he was born in Hastings. There's no evidence at all. I mean, I could say that, I don't know, anybody could be the love child of anybody, but I want the evidence. There's no evidence there. So this is where it goes a little bit off. So unless anybody's got evidence, I'll take that with a pinch of salt. Now, his lineage was critical, as we shall see, for it bound the child to two great dynasties of hidden truth, the Romanovs and the Rothschilds. It was also a dangerous bloodline to possess, as the treachery of both families knows no bounds. You'll agree with that. As a Rothschild, young Leonard was naturally raised as a, and I won't say the word, and even as a teenager, he betrayed all the trigonometric and sensual qualities of that exotic race. And at the heart of the Cold War, Nimoy joined the United States. This is the interesting bit. At the height of the Cold War, Nimoy joined the United States Army Special Services Division. Ostensibly, he was stationed at Fort McPherson in Georgia, although there have been reports that he was assigned to the secret base at Dawsonville, where a nuclear plant powered some of the cutting-edge CIA, NSA experiments of the time. It shall come as no surprise to learn that Nimoy's military records were completely lost in a suspicious fire in 1973, as even CENTCOM has been forced to admit. I don't know who CENTCOM is. That's obviously American. Now that's interesting, isn't it? An Illuminati star was born. Nimoy spent the ensuing years in Hollywood exploring a carefully curated series of acting roles meant to educate him in the theories of futurism and power. When Gene Roddenberry, a 33-degree Scottish Rite Freemason, I didn't know that, with his own ties to military intelligence, became Nimoy's handler in the 1960s, the actor fully embraced his fated position in the New World Order disinformation machine. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Star Trek is what analysts would describe as a predictive programming, i.e. a subtle way of seeding the media with clues about future events. It makes the public far more apathetic towards dangerous change. In the case of Trek, the show introduced the concept of a United Nations style government having complete control over a multicultural society that lacked private property, elections, or even genetically proper family units. Yeah. Instead, we are shown a soulless empire where interspecies sexual relations are the norm and faith is derided as archaic. This is, in essence, just how the Bible describes the beginning of the end times. And then it goes on. Now, I don't want to bore you shitless, so I'll read the next week. But it's rather interesting because I always thought that Star Trek was not quite what we're led to believe it is. And let's face it, it's sold all over the place. And Gene Roddenberry was not quite what we cracked up to be. Now let's go back to the chat room and my words, what we got here? BJB2, Peter Sellers was born in Portsmouth. Really, I thought he was born in Hastings. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll look it up on Google. Yeah, Portsmouth, unless I'm confusing him with someone else. And then we got here, Crikey. Satan or Pan is the ultimate Pied Piper, leading the world to hell. Yes, this is really the theme of this, what I'm doing now, which is this program. I called it Celebrity Pied Pipers, because there's something that I've never really understood, and that is, why is it that because someone's a celebrity, they're automatically trusted and an expert on something? For example, there was a chap called Ted Mould. Now, if you're of a certain age, you will remember him, but if you're not, if you're a millennial, won't know who the hell I'm talking about. But he was a nice enough bloke, he got nothing wrong. Ted Mould, he was a farmer that became a, inverted commas, celebrity. But he was one of these people you didn't quite know what skill he had. He just was a nice enough bloke, and he sort of popped up from different places. And but you know, he's a bit sort of bit like Bruce Forsyth, I suppose, a sort of, or Rolf Harris, you know, sort of. You don't quite know what he was. I mean, I know Bruce Forsyth, he was a jazz pianist before he became a, I don't know, compere, I suppose you could say. He didn't really tell gags or anything like that. He was just a face on the, and he was, I say, a farmer, and he sold double glazing. He was on adverts, you know, fit the best. You get a feather and drop it next to some double glazing. Well, what does he know about double glazing? Why should you believe him? And because, and there's a picture. Now, I don't buy the Sun newspaper because, you know, I prefer to use ordinary toilet paper. In fact, it's not really fit to wipe your bum on it so bad. And there's pictures of these so-called celebrities who are prepared to take Bill Gates in their arm. And when you looked at them, one of them was Esther Ransom, who I just can't stand. That's all self-righteous. You know. I've got to tell you a little story about Esther Ransom. No, well, I'll come on with the rest of her. Then there was a load of has-beens, you know, that were famous in the 1980s and probably 90s, and started their careers in the 60s and 70s, but you haven't seen them for a long time, you know. And there was Michael Parkinson. I can't stand him either. But I remember Esther Ransom, who I really cannot tolerate. I just can't even see a picture of the woman. She makes me feel ill. Two things about her, and I've got to be safe with what I say here. I'll be very, very careful. Okay. Now, I couldn't stand That's Life because you had these smug gits sitting there, typical BBC types of, you know, we do this, we do that. And they had on one of their programs, they were obviously were looking for material and they'd run out of it. So what they did, they actually went to a little country garage and they got a, I think it was Citroen they bought. They bought it quite cheap from this bloke. And I think they put it through an MOT. And it came through, it passed the MOT. And the only thing that went wrong was a little hose fell off the windscreen washers and it piddled water into the driver's side of, you know, the car. Well, that could have happened to anybody, and it's a simple job. You know, you just put a better hose clip on, go put it back on, done. Oh no. Oh no, you had one of their smug interviewers getting in the car. Oh, water's going all over my feet. It is dangerous. We now go over to one of the BBC engineers. Oh yes, if water spills over your brake pedal, your foot could slip off the brake and you could cause a major accident. And they hyped it up out of all proportions. You know, now you could probably, a vehicle could go through one of the most stringent vehicle inspections in the world, and you could still find a lump of hose 3 minutes later come off of windscreen washer. You know, it could happen anywhere. It's just one of those things, you know, you get a better hose, click, put it on, done. Anyway, they made a mountain out of a molehill, and then they went along to this garage with the car, and the bloke broke down in front of the camera. He said, I'm finished. He said, you know, and they went there to confront him, to be confrontational, and they were just literally making a mountain out of a molehill, you know, and it was sad. It really was. And a lot of people could see through it. They really could. But what people don't realise is that before Esther Ransom's That's Life programme, there's a programme called The Braden Beat with a chap called Braden and his wife. And they were Canadian. And Esther Ransom it was Bernard Braden, that was it. And his wife was called Barbara Kelly. And it was very similar to That's Life. They used to sort of take up consumer issues, not commuter issues. They used to take up consumer issues, and they found out that a Mini Minor, the height of the bumper is exactly the same height as a Rolls Royce. That's one thing they found out. But I was very, very young at the time. I think I was an infant. Anyway, Esther Ransom was a junior researcher on his program. And Barbara Kelly, who was Bernard Braden's wife, and a woman called Lady Isabelle Barnett, you can look her up on the internet. They were so horrified with the amount of paedophilia that was going on at the BBC at the time that they decided to start up a child line so that they could catch these paedophiles, so that children could phone in anonymously if they've been interfered with, and that would go to, the information would then go on to the police and they could start arresting people. And the next thing, what happens is Isabelle Barnett is found dead in her bath. And she was first of all accused of stealing some minor item out of a shop, which was, I think, she was framed. And she had, in inverted commas, committed suicide in a bath. Very odd. And Bernard Braden was fired immediately from the BBC. And Esther Ransom goes from junior investigator to heading this program, That's Life, which was based on the Babe and Bee. And I'll leave the rest is history. So I believe, allegedly, from my research, that Childline was not her idea. But isn't it strange that Childline's been going for years, and as far as I know, I could be wrong, there's been no arrests from the information. And don't you think a few children who had been molested by Jimmy Savile would have phoned the Childline? Just a thought. Interesting, isn't it? So, these things are very strange things that go on. Anyway, what we got here? We got crumbs. We got a lot in chat tonight. Now, where are we? Yes, that's what I already read that one out about Satan and Pan. That's right. Did you know that Santa is an anagram of Satan? Interesting, isn't it? And and again, what I don't understand is why people will follow celebrities and do exactly what they say. I'm doing this because do you honestly think that celebrities are going to get the same as everybody else is going to get? No. It's all going to be controlled. It's crafty. It really is. It's been worked out for years. I mean, what's going on now, you can be traced back to 1958, the Club of Rome, and Maurice Strong and people like that. He came along a little bit later. Anyway, let's read a few more of your comments out. It says here, there was some classical music written for the UN that sounds like the Star Trek theme. This is interesting, Evan. I can't remember what it's called. I think it might have been by Holtz, but I'm not sure. Wow, that's interesting. I'll look into that. Yeah, a big good one for the next program. So there's some classical music for you. Yes, that's interesting because Star Trek theme sounds like somebody that's done their trousers up a bit too tight. Ooh, there's some other ones here. Dav and Barr says the Doors lead singer Jim Morrison. Yes, I remember him. He did This Is the End, isn't it? One of my favourite films. Was it Apocalypse Now? Well, it was his dad that was a senior naval officer involved in the Gulf of Tonkin, involved in the Gulf of Tonkin false flag incident. Yeah, because Jim Morrison, I think he died at the age of 27. Because that seems to be the magic age that famous people die at, isn't it? Yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? Because most of these, I saw a very interesting talk by a chap on Red Ice Creations. And he said that most of the so-called musicians that came up during the hippie period in California, they had someone who was their father was always a high-ranking official in the American forces, and a lot of them couldn't actually sing or play a note of music. They were hyped up. And we got here Eminem. Yes, I've heard of that. And then we got Pet and Pat. Spot would say, fascinating article. I like that. Yeah. I like. Oh, by the way, I might as well give him a good plug, haven't I? If you go on to RV Licious, yeah, look at that on YouTube. They do an interesting blog, and so yeah, go on there, and it's fascinating. I've been following for ages. There we go. Metaphorically speaking. Right, what we got here? You sure? Yeah, sure. Right, it's an eyebrow. Logical. Yes. The Cult of Personality. That's right, DJ. Yes. And we got Paul Willington. Hello, Paul. Paul Craven. She fronted Childline. Oh, this is, we're talking about Esther Ransom, as I call her. She fronted Childline, passed on the info to the intel services, keeping the likes of Savile off the hook. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yes. Esther Ransom was a friend of Jimmy Savile. Yeah, I always think you can rate people by their friends, can't you? I mean, Savile was also a friend of Big Ears. Charlie Boy, Prince Charles. Now, with friends like that, wouldn't you be a little bit suspicious? Just slightly suspicious? Interesting, yes. Anyway, I'm going to round off with the dirty joke. All right? So if you're easily offended, please switch off. If you have any animals present, put them outside. And any children, you put your fingers in their ears. Oh, that'd be child abuse, wouldn't it? Or tell them to stop off out, go and play with the snow or something. Anyway, there's 3 lady MPs in the House of Commons bar in London, you see. And there's 2 Tory Conservative MPs at one end of the bar. And at the other end of the bar is one of these champagne socialists, these ladies, you see, and she's having a drink there. And these 2 lady Tory MPs are talking. One says to the other one, "Hey, Felicity," I says, "Yes." "How is your sorry, I just made that name up. If there is an MP called Felicity, I don't mean you. Anyway, so how is your new state? Did you manage to get a gardener? It must be terrible gardening several acres." He said, "Oh yes, we've got a marvellous gardener. Really? Oh yes." Now this is purely visual, so if you're on Facebook, you'll have to just use your imagination. "Yes, do you know he grows carrots that long?" "Really?" "Yes, yes. And they're that round." "Marvellous." He grows onions that round. They're marvellous, they are." And suddenly the champagne socialist lady MP at the other end of the bar says, "Oh," she says, "I'm a little bit deaf, but I think I know the MP you're talking about." So anyway, on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me this evening, and please join me next week, at the same time, 8 o'clock. And remember to, I always forget this bit, please subscribe. Go on RVlicious after this. It's good, it is, yeah. And that's Pet and Pat, or Pat and Pet, whichever way you want to look at it. And don't tell anybody they own a Mercedes van. Good van it is. And remember to subscribe. Ding that little bell. Ding, 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 ding. Tell others. Copy and whatever, and share, and on your international media or whatever you want to call it. And I'll be back soon with the mystery hour. And Colin and I have got a good one coming up, which is all about time slips. And there's a place in Liverpool that's notorious for time slips. which is quite interesting. And also, we'll be talking about the sounds of battles after they've actually happened. And a few little bit of tasters here. For example, did you know that in 1953, remember 53, in France, in Dieppe, the locals were woken up by the sound of gunfire. And it wasn't just one or two people, loads of people could hear this bang, crash, bang, bang, bang. They thought a battle was going on. It just so happened that 10 years prior to that was the invasion of Dieppe by the mainly Canadian troops. And it was a bloodbath. It was a failure. That was just before D-Day in World War II. And the war was over. So how comes they heard it? And there's another one of the English Civil War, where the battle of, I think it's Malmesbury in near the middle of England, to this day, people often hear the sound of cannon fire, horses galloping, and the battle going on. Interesting, isn't it? But time slips is the one that we're into. And there's also another one we're looking at, is the one about the Dakota aircraft, very famous one in Kent, where a couple of years ago there was a couple out for an afternoon walk, and they looked up in the sky, and this Dakota, which was a transport aircraft during World War II with D-Day markings on it, flew over and crashed into woods. And they phoned the emergency services, and a load of other people saw this and phoned the emergency services. And when the emergency services got there, there's nothing there. And apparently it was the ghost of a Dakota plane that had actually crashed there in 1944. Interesting. Anyway, we'll be going to that in the mystery hour. So thank you very much for joining me, and remember, subscribe. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's free of charge to subscribe. I mean, you can send a few bob if you want. I don't mind, you know. I'm always open for a bit of the old, you know, fogging stuff. And but no, it costs you nothing. It's free to subscribe, and it's free to ding that little bell. Ding, 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 ding. And thank you, and good night.